Gavin Newsom spent weeks ducking the endorsement question, focused on diapers, per Sacramento, and now, the second the runoff locks, he's out front rallying Democrats behind Xavier Becerra. Funny how that works. This is the California governor's race rundown. The count's closed, the matchup certified, and now there's actual news to press on.
And the headline I keep coming back to: Tom Steyer torched $200 million of his own money and finished third. Yahoo's got the post-mortem. We'll get to the ROI body count.
Plus, a Cal Matters piece on the voter fraud noise and whether Hilton goes anywhere near it heading into November. Start with Newsom, Adam.
Newsom unites Democrats. Okay, unites them to do what? Endorsing Becerra after Steyer's already edged out reads like a victory lap with good timing.
Exactly. What does the endorsement actually buy when it lands after voters already decided? Money, field, or just a social post? And here's the sharper contrast. Steyer spent $200 million trying to build a base and failed. Becerra inherited one, the old Swalwell support, and won. The donor class versus voter base gap PPIC flagged is now fully sourced.
$200 million for third place. That is the cleanest number in this entire race. Californians didn't buy the class traitor billionaire pitch. They didn't even rent it.
So that closes the spending discrepancy question from June 5th. The Steyer slice is clear now, and we can finally say whose money bought what in this primary. Then the Cal Matters piece, and credit to them for naming the structure clearly. Right-wing bloggers, ex-users, and podcasters, egged on by Trump, pushing baseless fraud claims about California's count.
And this is exactly the decline to state ceiling I've been talking about. That ecosystem is already activated around Hilton's race. Does he ride it, or does it cap him?
He kept shambles at arm's length from rigged. He framed it as incompetence and stopped short of fraud. The November question is whether he holds that line or gets pulled across it. That's the live, reportable story into November. The week started with an open count. It ends with the establishment consolidating and the fraud noise arriving right on schedule. From the Wrap.
California Governor Gavin Newsom called on Democrats to rally behind gubernatorial candidate Xavier Becerra after Donald Trump endorsed Steve Hilton secured a runoff spot. Newsom, who has served as California's governor since 2019, issued his endorsement of Becerra on X Tuesday evening, shortly after fellow Democrat Tom Steyer was edged out of the race.
So the primary count we've been watching all week finally lands. Steyer's out, Hilton has his runoff slot, and Newsom posts his Becerra endorsement on X Tuesday evening, minutes after Steyer was edged out. And the timing's the tell. This is a governor who spent weeks dodging the question, focused on diapers, per the Sacramento reporting, and now he's congratulating Becerra on a hard-fought victory the second the result is no longer in doubt.
Right, so what did the endorsement actually cost him? Nothing. He sat on it until the math was settled, then put out a social post. Call it a victory lap with no skin in the game. And read the quote. He calls it a hard-fought victory. Hard-fought by whom? Becerra inherited a coalition. Steyer dropped $200 million of his own money trying to build one and finished third.
That sharpens the donor versus base question we flagged off the PPIC map. Newsom rallying the establishment behind Becerra is the consolidation those numbers were pointing at, the party closing ranks around a base Becerra inherited.
Now watch what Newsom actually delivers between now and November. Money? Field operation? Or is, I'm proud to support Xavier the whole package? Because a governor who can't run again is spending influence he's about to lose anyway. When Newsom finally endorsed Becerra, Democrats talked about it like it was this big deal. But what does a governor's endorsement actually do for a candidate in a state as massive as California?
Yeah, it's fair to ask, because the honest answer is timing and context matter a lot. Newsom sat on this for weeks. As recently as May 8th, he was telling reporters he was focused on diapers when they asked about the race, per the Sacramento Bee. By then, Becerra's surge was already underway. KQED's post-primary reporting points to a broad working-class coalition and the collapse of Eric Swalwell's campaign. A sitting governor can still signal party legitimacy. He tells lower information voters and institutional donors this is the safe establishment choice. But the bigger financial fuel came from elsewhere. CalMatters found corporations including Chevron and PG&E pouring millions into a pro-Becerra committee because they saw him as the moderate alternative to progressive billionaire Tom Steyer. So Newsom's blessing ratifies Becerra. It doesn't build him from scratch.
So if corporate money and a late-breaking coalition carried him, where does Newsom's pull actually end? Did waiting so long cost him any leverage?
Probably, yes. By the time Newsom endorsed, Becerra had already stabilized his own lane, so the governor was jumping onto a moving train more than driving it. For November, watch whether that establishment stamp becomes a liability. Becerra is now publicly tied to both Newsom and corporate donors, in a race where the Sacramento Bee described the field as unusually chaotic and voter coalitions as still unsettled. Here's Yahoo News.
Steyer's fervently progressive platform and enormous spending galvanized powerful industry opponents, but couldn't consolidate the left, even as he sought to harness populist energy and rage against the billionaire class. He was never able to overcome his campaign's central paradox, an anti-corporate message aimed at the very bloc primed to distrust an older, white male billionaire.
$200 million of his own money for third place. That's the ROI I've been circling since the 5th, and now Yahoo News put the number on it.
And it wraps the spending question cleanly. Steyer's slice was $200 million plus, self-funded, and it bought him a podium finish with no runoff.
The line that lands for me is from Heather Grevenworth. She ran his own next-gen PAC, calling it the billionaire ceiling. When your former operative is the one diagnosing the cap, your past spin.
And here's the contrast that's now sourced. Steyer spent $200 million trying to manufacture a base. Becerra walked into Swalwell's after the April implosion, and the establishment coalesced. One bought ads, the other got handed a coalition.
$1 billion lifetime. Impeach Trump, run for president, now governor. 3 swings, 3 misses. At some point, the money starts telling you more about the candidate than the campaign.
CalMatters writes.
Meanwhile, the right-wing media gaggle evolved from jubilation to complaints about how long it was taking to count the votes, and allegations without evidence that fraud was being committed. They were joined by President Donald Trump, who, in an interview aired Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press, accused California officials of cheating, citing the protracted ballot count.
CalMatters does the thing I've been wanting someone to do. It names the ecosystem instead of waving at it. Right-wing bloggers, X-users, podcasters, YouTube influencers, specific players, specific structure.
And watch the arc CalMatters traces. Jubilation when Hilton's leading the count, then the second the lead softens, it flips to, "Why is it taking so long? Must be fraud." The math didn't change. The mood did.
Trump joins on Meet the Press Sunday, accusing California officials with no evidence. So I'm watching one thing now. Does Hilton pick up any of this language heading into November?
Right, because last week he walked right up to the rigged line and stopped. He called it a shambles and stopped short of stolen. The ecosystem around him is not stopping there.
And there's a tell in the source detail. Hilton's a British-born ex-Fox commentator, not a career California Paul. The outsider lane is exactly the one that's hardest to keep clean of the fraud noise once it's swirling.
That's the decline to state ceiling for him. If the noise glues him to the conspiracy crowd, the moderates he needs in November never show up. The fraud talk could cap him harder than any opponent does.
Fox 5 San Diego with Isabella Pauletto.
According to San Diego County Registrar data, Hilton has received the majority of votes in San Diego County so far. As of about 10 a.m. Tuesday, Hilton had a little over 30% of the county votes, while Becerra followed closely behind with about 27% of the votes.
Here's the wrinkle Fox 5 caught. In San Diego County alone, Hilton's at 30%. Becerra's trailing at 27%. The guy Newsom just blessed would have finished second locally.
Which is exactly why you don't read a statewide result off one county. Becerra advanced on the full state count, with San Diego as just one piece of it.
Sure, but the Steyer-Hilton gap is 215,000 votes statewide. That's the margin that locked the runoff. And we've already heard today, Hilton's the one in it.
And the turnout map underneath that is what matters for November. San Diego went red on a Democratic statewide night. That's the decline to state terrain Hilton has to hold and grow.
That's the assignment for him. Becerra inherits a coalition. Hilton has to assemble one out of counties like this.
If California governor's race helps you stay on top of the campaign, please subscribe and leave a quick review wherever you're listening. It really helps other people find the show. You'll find links to every story we covered today in the show notes. So if one caught your ear, you can take a closer look there. That's California governor's race for today. This is a Lantern podcast.